Okay, well, I guess we will call to order the Boise Parks and Recreation Commission monthly meeting for April 21st, 2022. Let's start with a roll call.
Faber, Carter,
Present.
Johnson, Rayber,
Present.
Brusiska,
Present.
Stidham,
Here.
Urban,
here, remotely.
Okay, great. And with us today, instead of Doug, is Sarah Arkle. And I think this is the first time Sarah's been here in her new role as the Parks Resources Superintendent. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And welcome. Congratulations.
Happy to be here.
So we'll start with the consent agenda. We've got 4 items on there. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve consent items A through D as presented in our packet. Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, we'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and the motion carries. The consent agenda is approved. So on to new business. We've got, first item is approval of the February 17th, 2021 minutes. Do I have a motion on that?
I'll move to approve minutes for February 17th, 2022.
And
I will second that.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? And I'll take it, the motion would be to correct the 2021 date to the 2022 date and approve as corrected. Any discussion on that? All right, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Commissioner Urban, you want to unmute and vote?
Aye, thank you.
And that motion carries. So we have next, well, we have 2 public hearings on the agenda. Next is the public hearing for the Gary Lane Park Site Master Plan. I think we'll have a short presentation from staff on that. I see that we have some members of the public signed up to speak on Zoom. So we'll hear the presentation and then have the public hearing on that.
President Carter and commission members, my name is Kelly Burrows, and I'm a landscape architect for the Parks Department. And I'll be the project manager for developing the Gary Lane Park site. The Gary Lane Park site originally was slated to be a fire station. And when they decided not to build a fire station there, it became park property, and the city council allocated $700,000 to develop the Gary Lane Park site this fiscal year. So once we got that approval, we moved forward with the master plan process. And if you aren't aware of where the Gary Lane site is, on this map right up here in the top left is River Glen Junior High School. Gary Lane turns into Glenwood. So just right off the map is State Street and Glenwood. And kind of similar parks that you may be aware of is Nottingham Park and Skyline Park. They're to the south of this location on the bench close to kind of Maple Grove and Chinden. And Nottingham is a 2-acre park site. Just kind of give you an idea of what the size of a park looks like typically. Nottingham has a playground and a basketball court, and it's all on-street parking. Then there's Skyline Park, which is a little to the west of Nottingham, and it has a playground, shelter, and a half-court basketball court. And there's no dedicated parking, it's all on-street parking. So that's kind of similar to what you'd expect to see at a development like Gary Lane. On Gary Lane, there's bike lanes on both sides of the street, and there's no on-street parking here. So as we look at this, All of our access will be coming off of Toby Drive. It's actually Toby Court over here next to the park. Next slide. Going through the process, this is what the actual master plan rendering looks like. And it includes a shelter, a fitness area, a playground for 2 to 5. That includes 2 to 5 and 5 to 12-year-old. And it has this path that you can walk around the site. And before I get into more details on how we got here, let's talk about the process that we went through to get to this part. We had our kickoff planning meeting. It was advertised through signage, a postcard to neighbors. Since this is a neighborhood park, it was advertised at a half-mile radius. And that's the goal of neighborhood parks, is to accommodate people within a half-mile radius of the park. And also this was advertised through the neighborhood associations. This was done through a Zoom meeting, and it was pretty successful. We had 43 people attend. And at the presentation, we had a few concepts just to start the conversation of what the park could look like. One concept was just open space so that people had an opportunity for passive recreation. And then a couple other concepts showed one with a skate park, a small skate park feature with a fitness station. Another one was with a shelter and a playground. And we also had an online survey. From our feedback from that meeting and those concepts, I developed a couple concepts for people to vote on the amenities and what options they liked best. Another postcard was sent to the neighbors. And that's where the residents voted on 2 updated park design concepts. We also included options for color of the playground. We didn't want to surprise the adjacent neighbors with anything too bright. And also we asked them regarding dog off leash preferences. We received 312 responses. And let's go to the next slide. This was one of the options that was presented to the public. Here's our access off Toby Court. We'll need to provide ADA parking access. And this option included a shelter, fitness equipment, and a playground. And as we get further along, there's a rendering of what playground equipment could look like. We received comments that there is a desire for a loop sidewalk through the park. And also there was a lot of concern with the traffic on Gary Lane and creating separation between the park and Gary Lane. So in this concept, there's a berm with trees. You can see there's a different pattern on the plan here. This depicts like a no-mow fescue, or maybe more of a meadow-like vegetation where you really aren't going to want to go walk in it. It just creates an extra separation between the neighbors and Gary Lane. A side point here is we have this map pulled up. You can see adjacent to us is the Jehovah's Witnesses Church. They have a large parking lot, and we'd like to work with them to seek approval to have additional parking for people that they can come park in this parking lot, so we don't push all of the parking onto Toby Court. Let's look at the next option.
Fence between the two?
There is. Currently, there's like a 6-foot wood fence through here. The whole property is fenced with a wooden fence. As we move forward, we would ask the HOA if we could remove this fence along Toby Court, blend their landscaping along this parcel into the park so it's as seamless. And also we'd have the same discussion with the church to see if they're open for the fence to be removed. In this option, it's a larger development. The ages in the playground are separated, and you can see that there's less open space. Let's look at the next slide. The survey results, the concept number 1, which had more passive open space with a playground and swings in the fitness pod, was preferred by 63%. There was a stronger desire for an earth tone package on the color of the playground equipment. And this is where there was a strong desire for that separation along Gary Lane to include a pollinator garden and then include benches and picnic tables for seating throughout the park. Here's a rendering of what the playground equipment can look like. This is currently what's going to be installed at Pine Grove Park this summer. And this was just used to give us an example of what we could use. We'll do something pretty similar, but it won't make the exact equipment. It includes swing set over here on the right side of the screen, a tower with slides coming off of it, and these additional features. And then the playground will have the bonded rubber surfacing for access and safety. And this is the preferred color combination from the survey results. With regards to dog off leash, 52% of the respondents supported the off leash hours.
You still have to minimize the window if you need to.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, just grab it and drag it over. 35% say they did not support dog off leash hours. 11% said they had no preference. And as the park reaches completion and it gets open for use, we plan to re-engage the neighborhood to determine off leash hours at the park. So this rendering that we're seeing now is a representation based off the 2 concepts that were presented and the results from that. We'll have our accessible parking on street with the Toby Court. It'll include a shelter. We'll have benches and seating in the park. We'll include a drinking fountain. There'll be a fitness station for exercise. And this represents the footprint of the play pod and equipment that we saw. It includes the sidewalk that you can walk throughout the park. Creates this additional connection over to Gary Lane. A couple more comments that we got from the public. Currently, the HOA has this landscaped area over here and a path that connects Toby Court back to Gary Lane. There were a few comments asking if we could approach ACHD to see if an enhanced sidewalk crosswalk could be put in here for people to cross Gary Lane. As we talk with ACHD about our parking over here on Toby Court, we'll definitely be talking to them about this idea of an enhanced sidewalk or a crosswalk crossing. And also there was another request if delineators could be put up along the bike lane to create that extra separation from vehicle traffic. And that's something we'll have to speak with ACHD about. That's our last slide. Are there any questions with this concept?
Anyone from the commission questions for Kelly?
So it's not so much of a question, but just a comment. One of the things that, probably 2 things. One, I'm always appreciative of the process. Like we can come up with a result, but if we don't go through a good process, then a good result can be bad because we didn't go through a good process. But I really appreciate and always do appreciate the process of 312 respondents for an acre and a half park is respondents per acre isn't how we gauge the good response rate, but we're certainly in that regard really high, which again, just going back to the process, I appreciate the fact that we engage and get input, go back, here's what we heard, here's what you said. We tried to put this together. What do you think about this? Give them options, give votes. So thank you to the staff for doing that process, because that's really important. In terms of the product, I think this plan looks great. I'm always the one on the commission. I told the person I took over for within the school district, I'd always talk about a water feature. Like, if we're going to put in a park, can we put in a water feature, right? And I certainly get with a budget that was given, even though for an acre and a half, it's amazing just to get people to move dirt and do this kind of work. It's a super expensive, right? And the equipment and some of that. But I live in this area too. I live right next to Shadow Hills, and right next to Shadow Hills Elementary, of course, is Magnolia Park, right? And so I know there's plans for that. And so in this neighborhood, I would just like to mention, you know, for people listening, that there's the opportunity for a water feature to be there, which is, you know, if you're in this Toad Court area, kind of off over by Riverland, that's pretty close for our kids to go engage with that. So I think that's great. You know, and just, I think your comments too about Gary Lane, you know, one of the things that's kind of unique with Gary Lane is a lot of our trash pickup, you know, that's a heavy street for, can I say, garbage trucks, so to speak, you know, going up to the landfill, right? And so there is a lot of traffic there. So I also appreciate the fact that we're engaging with ACHD about, you know, a possible way to get across that street right there, and just doing that safely. A lot of things going on there, but I think all of the process, I know the careful consideration for the water feature and not being able to put that into the budget. But anyway, great process, and from looking at all of this, a really nice product and outcome through all the input and discussion. So appreciate that.
Any other comments, questions?
I have a question just about parking. What do you estimate to be just a typical load for cars coming to the park during a day, a Saturday, Sunday?
Commission members, our goal is for the park to be walkable, and also not to put in features that like a community park would have that would bring people by vehicle, like regionally to the site. And that's probably why you don't see like pickleball courts or that splash pad, because the site won't support it. Whenever I'm in the parks in the weekdays doing site inspections at other smaller parks like this, typically I only see 1 or 2 cars in the daytime during work hours at a park. So I would think this would be pretty similar. It'll be a low vehicle load. But but it will be popular, and we can see that by all the respondents that participated in this. And that's why I think it's important that we reach an agreement with the adjacent church and try to have that parking in their parking lot as another option.
Good. And out of curiosity, have discussions with the church begun?
We reached out to them initially. Yeah, nothing's been formalized, but initial reaching out to them, I don't think that we heard anything negative from them.
We didn't hear anything negative, commissioners, but we also haven't heard anything back. So it's going to be a follow-up discussion. So.
Thankfully, Commissioner, we have kind of examples of how this has worked in other parks. I'm thinking of Sunset Park, where we have an agreement with the neighboring church. So hopefully we can show them some proof of concept, so to speak. And, you know, obviously though it's their park, it's private property, it's their church, it's in their property, it's private property. So we need to seek their partnership.
The private property just as a site has no green space whatsoever. You might enjoy.
Yeah,
I'm sure they would enjoy.
I could see the parishioners enjoying a little park.
Yeah.
After church, yeah, for sure.
No, it's a beautiful design.
All right, any other questions or comments from members of the commission? Okay.
Ours would be some Rise to Sunset.
Correct.
Okay, well, we'll move on to the public hearing. I think, Chloe, how many folks do we have on Zoom?
It looks like we only have 2 joining us. I see Grace and Nels. If either of you are intending to provide testimony, if you're able to use the raise hand feature, I can go ahead and move you over to a panelist position on the Zoom call.
Great, and while you're doing that, if we do have testimony, it'll be 3 minutes, 10 if you're representing an organization. And then we'll just ask you to state your name and your address for the record.
Not seeing any hands raised. Just one more time, if you are interested in providing testimony, go ahead and use that raise hand feature on the bottom of your screen. Not seeing any movement, so you might just be listening.
Okay, are they on camera? They can literally raise their hand on camera too. If there's only 2, if you can see.
They're not on camera, no.
Okay. All right, well, I guess we'll open the public meeting, and it appears, or the public hearing, it appears that we don't have anyone here to testify, which is fine. There was great participation throughout the process. So with that, I think we close the public meeting for the public hearing. Any other comments from the commission? I would assume not, and if not, then I think we're ready for a motion.
I would move to approve the Gary Lane Park Site Master Plan as presented.
Okay, second?
Second.
All right, any discussion on the motion? And we'll vote. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. So we've got our second public hearing is on the Zoo Boise Master Plan. And as I understand it, we had Director Peacock gave the presentation on the Zoo Boise Master Plan during the last Parks and Recreation Commission meeting. We didn't hold a vote at that point. I think we maybe should have, but we didn't. So the presentation materials are in the packet. We're not going to have Director Peacock here go through it again. But we will, I guess, start with any comment from members of the commission and then have a public hearing on that master plan as well. So I guess those were my opening comments. We had some discussion with Director Peacock last time. Some comments I think were very complimentary of the work that he's doing. So any questions or comments from the commission before we open that public hearing? All right, I don't hear any. Chloe, do we have anyone on the Zoom?
It looks like we just have Grace with us. And again, Grace, if you would like to provide testimony on this master plan, I'd ask that you use the raise hand feature. I'll give you a moment. Not seeing anything, so I think you're okay to close it.
Okay. Well, I'll formally open it and then say that we had someone signed up on Zoom. It doesn't appear that they're desiring to testify, which is completely fine. So it looks like we don't have participants for the public hearing. We will close the public hearing. And any comments from the commission? And if not, I'll take a motion on the Zoo Boise master plan.
I would move to approve the Zoo Boise Master Plan.
All right, second? Second. Any discussion? And we'll vote. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, that carries as well. And I think that's it. Do we have anything for executive session?
We do not.
Okay. Well, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay. Any discussion? Let's vote. All in favor say aye.
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 All right, and that one carries. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, thanks Liz.
Thanks.
Thank you.